There we are. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Shireen Nuez, and I am a CalTAP training coordinator. Today is April 20th, and today we are joining us for a family law webinar. So thank you again. I did leave a note in the chat for everyone that has just joined us and those that will be joining us, just to do some general housekeeping. So if you have any questions, go ahead and open at the very bottom of your screen the chat function. We will be utilizing different resources there. We'll be dropping some resources for you and then also capturing any questions you may have there in the chat. You'll notice that your video and your microphones have been turned off, and that's to maximize bandwidth for our presentation today so we can give you the best webinar. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and your consent is required, so participation in the meeting will act as your acknowledgement for the recording. We do encourage you to, when applying for benefits or services, to utilize a non-DoD email address. Just for some online housekeeping, in the event of an emergency, leave all your personal belongings and safely exit the premises or do what you have to do. Just as introductions today, joining me today is my fellow training coordinator, Sean Campbell. He'll be actually answering and facilitating a few of the questions in the chat as well as the waiting room. So if you have any questions, he'll be in the chat. As well as Ben Gales, our local interagency network coordinator, or LINK, from Orange County. And we also have a very special guest and guest speaker, Katie Binkley from the Veterans Legal Institute. She'll be presenting here shortly. In the event you experience a loss of internet service or connection, please rejoin the webinar utilizing the link provided in your email. I did notice that there are a few questions already in the Q&A. So please, by all means, continue to drop your questions in the chat, but please be mindful that it is a public forum. So we ask that you are mindful of what you are sharing and not to share any confidential information or any kind of info related to you. But if you have any questions, we will address them towards the end during the Q&A session. So with that, we'll just do a quick little CalTAP overview here. So let's get started with that. This is meant to give you a snapshot of benefits and resources available to you. And the goal is to get your feet wet with the benefits and acquainted with what your benefits are, where to find them, and along with phone numbers and emails to people who can assist you with accessing these valuable benefits. So what exactly is CalTAP? I'd like to read this word for word. CalTAP is the California Transition Assistance Program, and it is designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned federal and state benefits, as well as provide continued support and assistance as their needs change over time through 5 different pathways, which is the core curriculum, education, employment, entrepreneurship, and service providers. Essentially, we are here to assist you multilaterally. On your page here, you'll see the Veterans Resource Book. This is a great tool to enlighten, educate, and empower you. Sean has dropped a PDF copy in the chat for you to download so you can have that readily available to you, so you can readily see what resources are here for you in California. If you would like to print a hard copy, you can do that as well. This is the Calvet website. This is how you're going to be able to utilize CalTAP online. Our web address is calvet.ca.gov. The Calvet website is great because it gives you 24/7 access to information regarding benefits and services. As indicated by the red circle there, that is going to drive you to the CalTAP webpage. So let's go ahead and explore that. As you can see here, these are the 5 pathways that I had just reviewed with you. And overall, these pathways are meant to help you as your needs change over time. So your needs now may vary 5, 10, 15, or even next year. So know that you have a great resource to know what opportunities are out there for you or for your family members. We're going to go ahead and explore the core curriculum pathway. So as you can see within the core curriculum pathway, there are different modules. The modules have various videos and training materials that articulate how to access services, benefits, or other resources. These are meant to be self-paced learning modules and videos with training materials on how to access service, benefits, and resources. Let's go ahead and explore Module 5, which are California benefits. So these benefits are going to be specific to being here within California. So as you can see here, we have three listed. For the top, we have one of the most popular, which is the college tuition fee waiver. This is one of the most popular ones, as this is a CalVet resource. Dependents of veterans with a service-connected rating, disability rating of 0 or higher could qualify for the college tuition fee waiver. In addition to that, we have some Department of Motor Vehicle benefits, such as the veteran designation on your driver's license, and if you do qualify, motor vehicle registration fee waiver. I'd like to remind everyone that Sean is posting links for specific and additional information on how to access these benefits in the chat. So please be mindful of that and keep your eyes peeled there. We also have the Department of Parks and Recs has a distinguished veteran pass, along with the Department of Fish and Wildlife has special days for military and discounted rates for disabled veterans. In addition to that, we also have tax exemption fees. Within the various counties throughout California, there are diverse tax regulations. So when I note the tax exemption fees, it's important to speak with your county assessor, as each county differs on what you could qualify for. So that would be how you access those. CalVet is comprised of various divisions, 6 of which are here listed here. Veteran Services, which is what myself and Sean and Ben are a part of, is a multifaceted division whose goal is to best assist service members, veterans, their families, and service providers seeking to work on and partner with veterans on a cultural competent level. We also have the home loans division, which allows you for the VA, because we want to note that the VA and CalVet are completely separate programs with different qualifications. However, VA home loans and CalVet home loans together can maximize your purchasing power. We also have an amazing women's division. Believe it or not, within California, there are more than 163,000 female veterans. They have a fantastic women's veterans roster. Highly encourage you to get registered on that to learn more about different upcoming events and networking opportunities. We also have the minorities and underrepresented veterans division. And it's important to note that the veteran population of minorities within California estimates about 47%. So this division seeks to identify gaps and increase accessibility for those veterans. In addition to that, they've developed a Pathways to Citizenship program for those veterans that are seeking citizenship and who have served. They also have a roster, a separate one from the women's one. Highly encourage you to get involved in that and register for that if that pertains to you. We also have our veteran homes for long-term care. So this is income-based skilled nursing and assisted living facilities, which provide nationally recognized premier care. And lastly, we have our veterans cemeteries. California vets are eligible to apply for internment at Seaside and Redding. We do have a third one at Yountville, which is actually specifically reserved for those residents of the Yountville home. Some continued support options for you, and I thank you for bearing with me for this really quick California snapshot of different benefits for you, is keep in touch with us. Provide your email address at caltap@calvet.ca.gov so we can continue to inform you of up and coming events and or resources that become readily available to you as being a California veteran. You can also register for My CalVet online on CalVet's homepage. And then you can also add us on our social medias. We have our QR codes here in the corner in the top right. So if you have your phone handy and you're not on it right now attending this webinar, scan those codes and you can actually see our various social medias. Our YouTube has a lot of great previous workshops and webinars that we've already hosted. So there's a wide array of different subject matters that are captured there. And of course, attend our webinars. We have a lot more slated for April and all throughout the year, and we have an updated list on our Eventbrite. And lastly, filling out today's survey in regards to our webinar, so we can best improve our services for you. So really quick review of it. My Calvet, top right corner as indicated with the red circle. Again, this is what I reviewed this earlier. This is our landing page for CalTAP. On the right circle there, you can register and join us on our different kind of publications and little updates that we have for California vets. Another opportunity that you would receive if you were to register with My Calvet is receiving our monthly newsletter. Each month has a different focus and provides you a listing of upcoming events. In addition to that, you have a brief note from our Deputy Secretary, Keith Boylan. And not to forget, we also are partners with the VA. So important to highlight here, you may or may not be familiar with this webpage. And if you are not, it is va.gov. This website provides you with 24/7 access for 4 areas, which are healthcare, disability, education, and records. This website is rich in information and resources that you may be eligible for. As indicated in the top right corner with the red circle, this is where you would want to sign in or create your account. Highly suggest you to do that if you haven't done so already, so you can track benefits and eligible that you are eligible for. So this is my contact information here. My name is Cherie Nuez again. My email address is here if you wish to contact me or follow up with me. By all means, open to any questions for you there. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to Ben Gales, our local interagency network coordinator or LINK from Orange County. Ben.
Okay, thanks, Cherie. That was great. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Ben Gales. Calvin, I'm what we call a link. One of the most important jobs of a link is to provide information about benefits and services to veterans and their families. We do a lot of that work by phone and email, and that's certainly a way that we can help you as well, if you would like. Next slide, please. So this is our link map. We have 8 links in the state. So this map is color-coded so that you can see what link can best help you depending on where you live. So you can see that our link regions differ a good amount in size and also in veteran density of population. But really the main point is that as links, we have a very good knowledge of the specific services that are in our region. And so we're in a good position to help navigate those services for you and make the right connections. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what do we do as links? Well, we provide outreach to service members, veterans, and their families. We make referrals and work directly with established service provider networks. So as I've kind of mentioned, when we make referrals for you, it's not because we're reading about organizations on a website. It's because we are out in the community and we really get to know these providers. So we're well positioned to make good connections for you. We assist with local emergencies. So California wildfires and floods are a good example. We've been very present at many of those sites. And we provide leadership and advocacy in our communities. So a lot of us are very involved in different collaboratives around the state. Next slide, please. All right, so connecting to benefits. We have a sampling of benefits on this page for you. It's important to realize, of course, there's a lot more than this. And so we always want you to feel free to contact us with really any questions that are out there. But a couple here for employment and training. We have the EDD, America's Job Centers of California. Those are the centers that the EDD has where you can go directly to get employment services. And they have a veteran-specific staff at those EDD sites. And California state benefits are county veteran service offices. So those are a gateway for you to apply for state and federal benefits. There's one in every county. And then, of course, our CalVet benefits that Cherie highlighted. And then the VA and their medical centers and their community-based outpatient clinics, and then their vet centers for mental health services. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's it for me. Just a brief presentation. I think the most important point is we definitely want you to feel free to contact us. We are talking to veterans and family members every day, multiple times a day. So most questions, we have seen them. And we're really happy to help navigate whatever questions you may have. Okay, thanks a lot.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Thank you guys for having me this morning. My name is Katie Binkley. I'm the Deputy Executive Director over at Veterans Legal Institute, or VLI for short. And I'm also our family law attorney there. So I'm going to be talking with you guys today about some common issues that you can come across in family law situations and ways to address it and resources available to you. Next slide, please. First, I'm going to talk to you about who we are at Veterans Legal Institute. For those of you who are not familiar with our services, we are a nonprofit law firm and we're based out of Orange County. We're located in Tustin in the Tierney Center for Veterans, but we also serve some other Southern California counties, including San Bernardino, Riverside, and Los Angeles counties. So we have a couple main practice areas that we see in-house. The first, of course, being family law, like we're going to talk about today, but we have some other legal issues that we can assist with as well. So I wanted to make sure I took a moment to explain those to anyone on the call who might need assistance with a different issue other than family law. So some of our main practice areas are going to be veteran specific, like a discharge upgrade or a veterans benefits case. We also have some more general civil areas like our housing department, which is pretty exclusively eviction defense, but we also assist with things like requests for accommodation. Our estate planning department can help our veterans with having a will or a trust to plan ahead for their futures. If you or someone you know is going through a legal issue that doesn't neatly fall into those categories, I always encourage someone to still submit an application anyways, because we might be able to assist with a smaller legal issue, or we can always connect you with local resources in your county if you need to find a different legal aid organization like we are, or maybe if you need to hire an attorney for something specific, we can find those local resources for you and connect you. So even if you know that we're not able to assist, still reach out because we might know someone who might be able to. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are some big 4 umbrella issues in family law. The first is going to be a divorce, and the fancy term for that is a dissolution of marriage. You can also have a legal separation, which looks really similar to a divorce when you're working the case, but it has a different end result. So when you get a divorce, when you have that final judgment, you are going to be restored to the status of single person, meaning that you can file your taxes single, you can remarry if you wish. And legal separation is similar in the sense that you're going to do basically all the same documents, but at the end, that marital relationship is still going to be intact. So this might be for someone who needs, custody and support orders and property division orders, but the parties aren't necessarily sure if they want to have a divorce. And it can always be amended later if you decide ultimately you do want to get divorced. Second big issue is going to be child custody. So we're going to talk about the differences between legal custody and physical custody, as well as the different classifications that you can have. You've probably heard of sole and joint, but there's a lot more that goes into custody orders. So we're going to expand on that a bit. Next, we're going to talk about restraining orders, and those are called domestic violence restraining orders here in California. So we'll talk about the difference between civil and criminal orders, and then what a restraining order can do for you. Aside from, the stay away order that you would assume comes with a restraining order, you can also get other things like a move out order or custody orders if you happen to share a child or children with the restrained party in your restraining order. So we'll dive into that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about child support, when it comes at play, how it's calculated, and how parents can agree to a child support amount in their cases. All right, next slide. Okay, so let's get started with divorce. So sometimes people think that you need to file for divorce in the state that you did get married. That's not the case here in California. Even if you were married in another state across the country, you are welcome to file for divorce here in the state of California. However, we do have 2 residency requirements in order to file. The first is that you must have been a resident of California for at least 6 months before you file for divorce. And then the second is that you must be a resident of the county in which you intend to file your case for at least 3 months. Let's say those residency requirements don't work for you. You can either wait to file, so it's not an issue for you, or if you need emergency relief, you can always file for a legal separation and then later amend it to a divorce. So let's talk about default judgments in divorce. If you are filing for divorce and your spouse totally ignores you, never responds in the case, never does anything, you can get a default judgment. It's kind of analogous, and this is how it was taught to me. I'm not a sports person, so I could get this wrong, but it's analogous to when a team doesn't even show up to the game, so they're going to forfeit that loss, and they don't have the opportunity to win because they never participated in the first place. California doesn't require two people to need to consent to the divorce in order to order a divorce. So when you have a divorce, any of those subset umbrella categories that we talked about are going to have to be addressed. So if you have children in your marriage, you'll need to have a child custody order. Notice that I said in the marriage. So if you marry and you already have a child from a previous relationship, you're not going to need to worry about custody in that case. It's just going to be if you and your spouse are filing for a divorce. When there's children involved, not only is child custody going to be at issue, but you're going to need to talk about support, whether that be child support or spousal support, commonly called alimony. And then lastly, you need to address property in a divorce. So California is a community property state. And what this means is that as soon as you become married, anything that you earn or you owe, of course, with a few specific limited exceptions, is going to be property of the marriage. So it's going to be community property of the marital estate. So if you're earning income at a job, that income is going to be community property. Or if you and your spouse take out a mortgage on a home that you purchased together, that's going to be a community debt. So all of those things must be addressed in a divorce, how things are going to be split up, maybe sold, maybe exchanged. So that is how you get some property orders in a divorce. And let's go to the next slide. Okay, so let's talk about child custody. The first thing I want to talk about with regards to child custody is legal custody, and that refers to the right and the responsibility to make decisions relating to health, education, and welfare of a child. So if you have legal custody or you share legal custody with the other parent, this means that either you or the both of you have the right and responsibility to make decisions about the child's schooling, where they're going to go to school, where they might receive childcare, religious activities, where they might receive their physical or mental health treatment, which includes access to those records and communication related to those treatments. But it can also include things like a children's sports schedule, extracurricular activities, and also each parent's right to go on or take vacations with the children. So let's go to the next slide. And we will compare legal custody with physical custody. So physical custody is kind of, as the name suggests, it's where the child is at on any given day. And there are a couple types of physical custody. You can have joint physical custody when both parents are going to have some physical custody, or maybe one parent has sole physical custody because the other parent lives out of state or is not involved for whatever reason. If you share joint physical custody, it's possible for one parent to have primary custody. And this would be considering the parenting time schedule, whether they have significantly more time, or if it's more of your classic joint situation where it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare. So I call them parenting time orders within physical custody. You've probably heard it called as, parent visitation. I think there's been a movement towards calling it parenting time because it's just a better way of phrasing it, I think. I think visitation can have a negative connotation, almost like you're punishing the parent without primary physical custody. And so you might also hear it called as parenting time. So parenting time orders in your child custody case can be as vague or as specific as you need it. And this is really going to depend on the needs of that family. So most likely what you're going to see is a specific date and time schedule. Maybe mom has the child Monday to Wednesday, dad has the child Wednesday to Friday, and then they're going to alternate weekends. That's a pretty even 50-50 split. Or you might need to base it around the child's school. Maybe the parents don't live very close to each other, and so it's not practicable to have a long, trip during the week. So you can get as specific as you need when it comes to those date and time schedules. You can also have a holiday order, and holiday orders are going to supersede your regular custody orders. So if you normally have, Wednesdays and Thursdays, but Christmas falls on a Thursday this year, that is something that can be addressed in a holiday order. Most commonly, what parents like to do is assign an alternating schedule, like mom might get Thanksgiving in even years and dad gets Thanksgiving in odd years. You can always split those days up as you need. A lot of times people might think that they don't need a holiday schedule because you could be cordial with the other parent at the time, which I hope that you all are for your sakes, but it is good measure to include it just because in the event that you might have a dispute one day or a disagreement, the order is going to be there and it has, the provisions for you to follow. So it can kind of avoid the potential for future issues. You can also have orders about transportation. Where is the child going to be picked up? Are you going to pick up at the other parent's house? Do you want to do exchanges, as we call them? Do you want to do it at the child's school so it's a little less personal? Maybe there might be security or safety concerns, and so you might want to choose a public location like a mall, restaurant, or even a police station if that works for the family. Sometimes parenting time needs to be supervised, whether, if there's some type of risk or concern of the parent or the court as to one parent's ability to care for the children alone. A court can order supervised visitation. Well, there's two types of supervised visitation. There is unsupervised, and then, I'm seeing things pop up in the chat, kind of distracted me there for a second. Let me focus here. So there can be professional supervised visitation or non-professional supervised visitation. As the name suggests, if you go to a professional provider, there are many people that either have their own businesses where you can come to them, or there are monitors that will go out in the field with you. Maybe they'll meet you at a park, maybe they'll meet you at the beach. And then you can have someone who's going to be that third party that's there to ease any safety concerns that maybe the court might have. I know sometimes this might feel like a low blow to a parent who has a supervised visitation order, but I think there's definitely some positive aspects of it. If one parent would like the other parent to have supervised visitation, the fact that you have this professional monitor who doesn't know either of you, they can be a neutral third party to report to the court on what happened at the visitation, because the court's not going to be able to have eyes and ears to see how everything goes when you guys are not before the judge. But having these supervisors give statements and updates as to the progress of the visitations can be helpful for eventually getting off of supervised parenting time or maybe changing your custody order. So lastly, it can include orders like travel or vacation. Maybe you want to get in writing in your custody order that each parent can have X amount of time of vacation, like mom gets 1 week during summer vacation and dad gets 1 week during summer vacation. You might need orders about when you notify someone of, getting preference of those vacation times. Maybe mom needs to notify dad 30 days in advance and get dad's consent. All goes back to say it can be as vague as you need, like we each want 1 week of vacation, or as specific as you need, like I've just mentioned, where one parent might need to provide notice, the other parent might need to consent. So as you can see, there's a lot of customization that can happen in your child custody order. I would really recommend all parties going through custody cases to participate in the court's mediation services. Every courthouse is going to offer free mediation to the parties because, and from the court's perspective, if they put you in a room with a trained mediator who's not an attorney, they are specifically trained in order to resolve conflict and help parents come to these types of solutions. So from a court's perspective, if they can get you in a room with a mediator, you might be able to resolve your issue without going before the judge, which means that the judge has time to hear all the other families that need family law orders that day. Or you can narrow down the scope of what you need before the judge. Let's say that you guys agree on a holiday order, but you don't agree on your regular weekly schedule. You can agree in mediation to a holiday order, and that's one less thing you have to talk about when you're before the judge, which is really important because you don't get as much time as you might think before a judge, and so every moment is going to be valuable. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so let's talk about how you get a custody order. So if you are married to the other parents, you can get a custody order in the context of a divorce case or a legal separation case. So those would be the types of case that you file in order to get a custody order from the court. Now, let's say that the parents are married and they're not sure that they want to terminate that marital relationship, but they know that they need some orders for custody and support. California has a situation for this, and it's called a petition for custody and support. So both parents can participate in this case. The court can assign a custody schedule as necessary or order child support as necessary to give the family that relief in the interim until they decide whether they ultimately want to dissolve that marriage or if they're going to get back together, and then these orders might not be necessary. So what if the parents aren't married, which is very common? That's going to be a different type of case. It's called a parentage action. And so the document you'd file is a petition to determine a parental relationship. So in California law, when there is a child born in a marriage, the law is going to presume that the other spouse, the father, is the father of that child. So it's an added little hurdle for you to cross if you need a custody order and you're not married to the spouse, but it's not difficult. It's just a different type of case that you would file. And this is also the type of case that you'd file if there's a dispute to paternity. So a parent, either parent, can request genetic testing, which the court can order so you can determine if it really is the correct parental relationship. Now, as we talked about default judgments in divorce, you can also get a default judgment in a parentage action. So let's say you're the mother of a child and you are not married to the father and you need orders for custody and support. You can file a petition to determine a parental relationship, and that other parent has the right under the Constitution to respond to the case. And if they want to respond and they want to dispute paternity, they're welcome to do that. That's their right under the law, and they can request genetic testing. But, in the same way that if someone didn't respond to a divorce and totally ignores you, if they ignore a petition for a parental relationship, the court can enter a default judgment of parentage, meaning that that other parent is going to be the legal parent. So you can get custody orders and you can go after them for support. So if you need custody orders on an emergency basis, the court does have a mechanism for this. This is called an ex parte order. So in custody cases where there is an imminent risk of harm or threat to the safety of a child, you can file an emergency request for custody orders that's going to be given to a judge that day, and the judge can make orders that day. So because it happens on such a quick basis, there are some specific rules here. So you'll want to find out from your courthouse or if you're working with an attorney on the specific rules for that. But it's definitely something that you guys can do. Normally, it's going to be a requirement that you need to provide notice to the other parent the day before you're seeking these emergency orders. And then you would provide them with a copy of the documents. And that's just, as a basic fairness. If someone's going to seek emergency orders and they want to remove custody from a parent that next day, you're going to need to check your boxes to make sure that you're doing it in a fair way and that person has the opportunity to respond, as they have the right to. So I know we have some people on this call who are outside of Orange County, but if you're in Orange County, all family law cases are going to be filed at the Lamoureux Justice Center in Orange. It's just something specific that Orange County has where they assign every single family law case to one courthouse. But if you're in a different county, it might depend on where you live. So for example, in Los Angeles County, they make it very easy online for you to enter in your city or your zip code, and it'll pull up a chart for you where you can see the appropriate court in order to file your custody case. In Riverside County, there is a list on the website that you can pull up where you can again use your zip code to find out which court is going to be the appropriate one for you. If you're not sure, always just get the court on the phone. There are clerks who manage the phones all day, every day, and their job is to be representatives to the public and answer questions. They can't give you legal advice, but they can tell you, here's what courthouse you need to go in order to file your documents, or if you need ex parte orders, here are the rules that you need to follow in order to do that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So next, we're going to talk about domestic violence restraining orders, or DVROs for short. Let's go to the next slide. So a lot of times when I'm speaking with a veteran, they might think that they don't qualify for a domestic violence restraining order because there hasn't been any act of physical violence in their relationship. The statute in California, it goes broader than just physical violence. So I've listed some examples here on this slide. You'll see the first one is, causing or attempting to cause a bodily injury like we talked about, but it can also include placing someone in reasonable apprehension that they're going to be subject to physical assault. Could be a sexual assault. Maybe one partner isolates the other partner and, deprives them of their relationships with their close friends or family members. It could be a situation of deprivation of basic necessities. Maybe one person in the relationship has access to all of the finances and only hands out certain amounts. So you can see that they really have that financial control over the other party, so much that the other party can't meet their basic needs without that person. It can include monitoring people's movements, tracking them without their consent, reading all of their messages every single day, giving them incessant text messages or calls throughout the day, threatening someone based on their immigration status, or reproductive coercion. So if you think that this might be a situation that you or a friend or loved one is in, know that other situations are going to be covered, and you might want to consult with an attorney or with another advocate on whether a domestic violence restraining order is appropriate for you. I say advocate in addition to just an attorney because there are some amazing domestic violence organizations and shelters out there where there are plenty of people that can help you with filing this, even if they're not an attorney. Let's go to the next slide. So if you get a domestic violence restraining order, what can this order do for you? First, let's talk about the timing. There are temporary and permanent restraining orders. So if I were to go to the courthouse today and file a request for a restraining order, that request is going to go to a judge that same day. That judge is then tasked with deciding if they need to order a temporary restraining order until they have time to hold a court hearing. It's very common for these to be granted on a temporary basis because judges just simply don't want to take the risk that someone could face harm until they have the opportunity to hold that hearing. So a court can enter a temporary restraining order until they have time to schedule that hearing where both parties can appear and have their day in court, as they have the right to under the Constitution. For a period of time, courtrooms were closed to the public during the COVID pandemic, but courtrooms are now open to the public. So if you want to bring an advocate with you, like one of the organizations that we talked about on the last slide, or if you want to have friends or family there to support you, you can bring those people with you. So let's talk about criminal and civil restraining orders. So what I'm talking about today are all civil restraining orders because I'm a civil attorney, and that is the context that you would get a domestic violence restraining order. However, there can also be a criminal protective order. If there is a situation where the police are called to the scene of an incident and they decide that they need to issue a protective order, they can issue an emergency protective order, or an EPO for short. And that has varying lengths of how long that might last. And then the district attorney can decide whether or not they want to prosecute that case as a criminal restraining order. So it's possible that you might have both. Someone could have a criminal restraining order and still need to go to family court to get a civil restraining order because the family court is going to be who can make orders about things like custody and support, whereas the criminal court isn't the proper location for that. So in a domestic violence restraining order, the main protection that you're going to get is a stay away order. The common measurement for that is 100 yards. Don't come in between that. Stalk, harass, harm, contact, anything. The parties aren't going to be able to contact each other, but that also includes using a third party. So, if you had a friend checking in to relay your messages, that could be a violation of the restraining order, and violating restraining orders can be punishable criminally. So if you've been served with a temporary restraining order, don't talk to the person who is in the protected person under the restraining order. Even if they make initial contact with you, don't respond, don't do anything, just appear at your day in court because you don't want to have violated that because that can be used against you. If you live in the same home as the restrained person, you can request a move out order. So the court can order them to move out of the house during the duration of the restraining order. You can get orders for property control or bill payment. Maybe you have a vehicle together, or you guys have two vehicles and you want to make sure you have the exclusive right to use one of those vehicles. You would seek property control orders. They also allow for bill payments. So let's say, especially in the case that we talked about, a financial coercion, if the restrained party is the one with access to finances, or they might be covering certain expenses like your monthly phone bill or utilities, something like that, you can request bill payment orders in your restraining order. And then lastly, if you have children with the person who is the restrained party in the restraining order, you can request custody orders and child support orders. So there's a provision in California law that if somebody has been found to have committed domestic violence, the law is going to presume, so just assume that joint custody is not going to be in the best interest of the children. And that's the court's guiding standard in all family law court proceedings. They're less looking at the parents and more looking at what's going to be best for this child or children that are involved in this case. So if a court conducts a full hearing and they find that one parent has committed domestic violence, that presumption is going to apply that there shouldn't be joint custody. Now, it's a rebuttable presumption, which means that that parent who's been found to committed domestic violence can submit evidence as to why this presumption shouldn't apply to them and why they should still have joint custody. Let's go to the next slide. So what to do if you need a restraining order? Everything I'm telling you today is legal options for getting restraining orders, but if you're in a dangerous situation in the moment, call 911 or call the police before you call your attorney, and know that you still can have that emergency protection from a criminal restraining order if you need it. Also, keep in mind that anything that you file with the court is going to be served on the other side. So whether it be a sheriff's officer or a third party process server that you hire, that person who's the subject of the restraining order, they have a right to be served and know what is going on in that case. So that can lead to some discomfort, to say the least, or a possible safety threat, to say the most. So make a plan for when that person is served. What are you going to do? Do you want to go stay with friends or family, stay at a shelter? And then there's also this hotline that I've listed on here, the National Domestic Violence Hotline that you can contact. All right, let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about child support. So if you're getting a divorce and there are children or a child of that marriage, support is going to need to be addressed. The good thing is that parents who are amicable can agree to a child support amount, even if it's zero. So let's say that you and the other parent have pretty equal 50-50 custody time. You guys can mutually agree, hey, I don't need to collect child support from you. You don't need to collect child support from me. We both agree to be responsible for the child's costs and needs when they're in our care. That's a perfect scenario if you guys are in agreement, but if not, every county can order and enforce child support. So either parent can open a case for child support, and the quickest way to do that is going to be contacting your local child support office. You can request child support if you're going through a divorce or maybe like a restraining order like we talked about, but as you'll either know because you've been in family law proceedings, or as you'll see as you go through them, family courts can move slowly. And, bills don't move slowly. Expenses come every single month. So if you need help with child support, quickest thing to do is go right to your child support agency. You can open a case online. You can go in person or call them. They're very helpful. And what it does is it opens a support case, and child support is mainly worried about three things. The first would be establishing parentage. So child support can establish parentage too. The second is they want to make sure that that child is cared for financially. So they'll make sure that if a support is appropriate in that case, that they can order it. And then the third is that they'll actually order one or both parents to have health care for the children. So they might have kind of, a scary reputation, but their interests are pure. They're there to make sure that the children are cared for. If you guys are not in agreement as to support, the state has developed a guideline calculator, And that is a non-biased computer formula where you would enter in how many children that you have, how much time each parent spends with those children. So it asks you for that in a percentage. So you can make a rough estimate, or you can make your own percentage by calculating, here's how many hours are in a month, and here's how many hours that I spend with my son or daughter. And so here's the exact calculation. The court would then, or the child support agency would then enter in those numbers, and they would look at each parent's income. So your income is going to be treated separately depending on where it comes from. If you are working and you earn wages, that's considered taxable income. So that's going to be considered in one column in this formula. But, many veterans are not working and are instead receiving disability compensation. This support does need to be disclosed, or this disability compensation needs to be disclosed when you're making support, but know that it's going to be calculated differently than wages because it's non-taxable income. So I put the link on here for the guideline calculator. It's very easy to find online if you want to, just Google DCSS support calculator, and you can kind of play around with those. It's a good idea, I think, for both parents and, getting prepared for what might come in your family law case to get an idea of what support could be ordered. And it could help your negotiating too. Look, here's what the calculator is giving us. I think we should agree to this number. And knowing that that calculator is not going to be biased or favoring one parent and it's all formulaic, it might help someone come to the negotiating table on coming up with a support amount. So let's go to the next slide. So I cannot stress this enough: participation in child support cases is key. If you are the parent that's being ordered to pay support, please don't ignore this case. We've talked about default judgments today. Courts can make orders without you participating. You don't get to prevent the rule of law from happening by staying at home. The court will just move ahead without you. If you are not able to pay that support, or you choose not to pay that support, that's going to start accruing a balance called arrears or an arrearages. And by California law, every single year, that balance is going to be charged 10% interest. So you can see how if you're not on top of things and you kind of let things get out of control, it can really balloon into a large amount of debt. And if you have that debt and you don't pay your child support, the agency has some enforcement actions that they can take against the parent, including suspending your driver's license and your passport and garnishing your bank accounts. So that's why it's really important to participate. When a case is opened, both parents are going to be provided with documents for them to detail all of their income and all of their expenses. And that's what the child support department is going to use when they make that calculation. Don't be afraid to fill out those forms. Even if you don't have any income coming in, you can list zero. It's possible that a court could order no child support in cases where one party might be thrust into, federal poverty level territory if they were ordered to pay certain child support. So there's a lot of debate about this in the veteran community, but VA disability compensation does need to be disclosed. It's a little different when it comes to child support. If any of you on here are receiving that, I'm sure you might know that it is not able to be garnished in the event of a case like a bankruptcy. However, there is an asterisk to that, and it does apply to family support because it relates to your ability to pay. So if you have the disability compensation coming in and that's your only income, that's definitely fine. Just list the correct amount. They will likely ask you to provide a decision letter from the VA, which is evidence of that amount. And then it will be inputted into the calculation, but treated differently. So let's say that you are a parent that has an arrears balance and it might have gotten out of control. It might seem a little unmanageable to you. The state does have ways to help parents in this situation. So in the past, it was called the Compromise of Arrears Program. They've changed it up and rebranded it. It's now called the Debt Reduction Program. So you might hear some of those things when you're working with your support caseworker. The most important thing to do is, in order to qualify for this program, which can help reduce some of the balance that you owe, is that you need to get current for at least 2 months. So contact your support agency if you're ready to address these arrears. They can find out your current income and set a temporary amount for you, just so you can get current enough in order to apply for this debt reduction program, which can make the debt a lot more manageable. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so where to go for family law help? So if you need help with any or all of the things that we just talked about, there's going to be different places for you to go. So the first place that I would encourage everyone to go would be a legal aid organization like Veterans Legal Institute. Legal aids are nonprofits, and so they don't charge their clients. You will likely have to submit an application to show that you qualify for services. Since the services are all free of charge, they've got to be limited in some way. Now, Veterans Legal Institute, we serve Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and Los Angeles counties. I know in Northern California, there's a veteran-specific organization called Swords to Plowshares, but as far as I know, we're the two veteran-specific legal aid organizations in California. But there's going to be plenty that include veterans, of course, along with civilian clients, and it's going to depend on what county that you live in. So you can do some research online, or if that seems a little overwhelming to you, you can always contact us at Veterans Legal Institute. We get a lot of applications for people who might not, live in our service area, or maybe their case is located outside of our service area. Like you might have a custody case going on outside of the state of California. We can help you with that research of finding here are the legal aid organizations in your area. The next thing you can do for family law help is represent yourself. I would highly encourage that to everybody on this call. It is a lot more common than you'd think for parties to be self-represented in family law cases. And I think that's just because it's such a common type of legal action for your average everyday person to come into contact with. Many people get a divorce. Many people need orders for support in custody. If you feel comfortable doing that, or maybe you don't have too vast of an estate. If anyone on here is Elon Musk, you probably shouldn't do it yourself. You should probably hire an attorney because that's a bit more complex. But if you're your average everyday person like me, then representing yourself is going to be a good idea. In doing so, it's important to work with the courthouse's self-help center. So the self-help center employees are actually attorneys themselves. So they're familiar with what documents need to be filed. Now, note that these attorneys can't give you legal advice. They're not just free lawyers in there, but they can look over your documents and say, oh, you need to fill out this section here. This form gets served here. This is how it happens. So they can really walk you along the process. And the California Court Self-Help Center website is fantastic. They really break things down in very easy to understand language and make sometimes seemingly complex problems seem a lot more manageable. Like I mentioned, you can also go to your child support agency. That's going to be the quickest way to get relief. And then you might also consider hiring a private attorney. This might be for situations like I mentioned, the Elon Musks out there. If you have businesses, if you own multiple properties, these things can get complex, and it might be beneficial for you to have an attorney. Every county is going to have a lawyer referral service. Whether that be online or over the phone, sometimes both. And every attorney in the county is required to, be a member of their local bar, and they can sign up to be on this list of referrals if they'd like to receive referrals from the public. So if you call your lawyer referral service and you say, I'm looking for a family law attorney, they can give you a list of attorneys to contact. A lot of attorneys will do a free consultation at first. I'd encourage you to shop around a bit, look at different prices, see if there's anything you can afford, or maybe just get a free consultation and then get that information to, make you feel more prepared in tackling this case. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so if you need assistance from BLI, apply online at www.vetslegal.org. We have an online application, or you can apply over the phone by calling 714-852-3492. We can do that application with you over the phone. I mentioned we're located in Tustin at the Tierney Center for Veterans, and we take walk-ins if you guys ever just want to come in. The building itself is great. There's an employment office, there's housing assistance there. So it's really a one-stop shop. I'm also putting my email in here if you guys need to reach out to me. And I know we've got a question and answer portion, so I think we're ready to move on to that one.
Thank you so much, Katie. Your presentation covered such a wide array of information, robust with information, so greatly appreciate it. Also, special thanks to Ben Gales for joining us, and also my colleague, Sean Campbell. I'm going to turn over to Sean, who's kind of captured and answered a few questions throughout the chat to highlight anything for Katie or Ben or myself to answer. So go ahead, Sean.
Thank you for the opportunity. We had a great question about the GI Bill and VR&E chapters 33 and 31. Do these benefits need to be disclosed during those types of cases?
They do need to be disclosed. And I know that sometimes it's not always going to be the same amount every single month, especially if you're getting the GI Bill. It might depend on how many credits you're taking that semester. And so know that you have the opportunity to provide more information than these forms are asking you for. So the name of the form that you'd be doing is called the Income and Expense Declaration, and FL 150 is the abbreviation if you want to Google it. And there is an option to include an attachment if it's not going to be the same every single month. And so what you might do is list out the past 12 months. You can come up with an average amount, or just get that information to the court, because you wouldn't want the court to look at that amount and think it's going to be the exact same every month, and then all of a sudden you're in a support amount that's just not feasible for you. So if there's more information that you need to provide, you can provide it to the court, and you can also include attachments like statements or letters, so they know that it's not just coming from you, but you can relay that information about your benefits straight from the horse's mouth.
Thank you for such a great answer. Another question we got was specifically about someone who was trying to get a divorce. There was this restraining order involved, but they didn't know the exact location of the person that they were trying to do the paperwork with.
Of where the person who is the restrained party or was that clear in the question?
I believe it was referencing the restrained party. They don't know the location.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes people can request a confidential address if there's a safety concern there. And so that can be difficult if you're not totally sure. Theoretically, they could be on your street and you'd have no idea. I would encourage you in the course of those proceedings to ask for a little clarification from the court. If you're not sure where to serve someone, the sheriff's department can help you. So the sheriff's department will do process of service for free of charge in all restraining order cases. If you need their help for other cases, there is a small charge, or you can, get free services if you qualify for a fee waiver. But by law, service on restraining orders is always going to be free. And they have a bit more resources than we do. As your average everyday people. If you give them information, here's the last known address that I had. I know they used to work here. This is the type of car that they have. They might be able to find them. If not, you might need to reach out to other people in order to get their information, mutual friends or family members, or you can always hire a private investigator.
So another question we got was involving someone from Northern California. I made sure to share the information about Swords to Plowshares so they could explore that as well. But their question specifically was about your ability to have phone or video consultations that might be helpful.
Yeah, we know that, we serve a lot of people who might not be local to us, or they might have some type of barriers with coming into the office. And so you can always give us a call. What we would do if you're outside of our service area is we would recommend you to local organizations up in that area. You can also go to our website, vetslegal.org. We do have, I know we have at least like one recorded training on there, some information on there. So you might be able to get some stuff, because a lot of it's going to be the same for the whole state, but each county might have their own little additional things.
So another question we got was about child support and about someone closing the case due to unemployable status, and the kids have aged out well past 18. What are the options for someone in that type of scenario?
Yeah, so a case can be closed out for a disabled veteran. What you would do is you would work individually with a caseworker. So there's going to be a caseworker assigned to your case. So you can either you might already know them, or you could call the agency to find out who that is. They would provide you with additional documents in order to describe your service connection, describe whether or not you're able to work. It might ask you for a doctor's statement, and then they would review that, and a case can be closed based on that status. And then, if there were any balances or something, I would encourage them to ask about the debt reduction program as well.
Thank you for that great answer. The next question is, does Veterans Legal Institute handle living trusts? And if so, what are the requirements for that?
Yes, we do. So that's going to be counted in that umbrella phrase of estate planning, which would include a will and a trust. Most commonly, you're going to need a trust. So what you would do is you would file an application online and let us know that that's what you're looking for. And again, that's Vets Legal, VETSLEGAL.com or .org. Yeah, and you can request an estate plan. And so what would be beneficial, as you're getting your ducks in order to do that, would be collecting information on property that you might own, maybe accounts, insurance policies, homes, vehicles, valuable property, things like that. And then we also do pretty inclusive estate planning. So we like to include a power of attorney or a healthcare directive, sorry. And those are when, if you, for whatever reason, become incapacitated, then you've planned ahead of time in order to have those people be able to make those decisions for you and your family. And then lastly, we can help with submitting the applications for the cemetery burial that you guys were mentioning at the beginning of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Katie, and thank you everyone for your great questions. I do know there are a lot of still questions left to be answered. However, in light of honoring time today, we are going to move through and go into the next slide and close out our webinar for today. However, that's not to say that the slide that we have up right now has everyone's contact information from Katie, Ben, myself, or Sean. So I'd highly encourage you all to either take a snapshot right now so that we could follow up with you for any further questions. But I do appreciate your time this morning, Katie, and everybody else that has attended today for this great webinar on family law. Just to share with everyone some upcoming webinars, we have resume writing on the 25th, the PACT Act explained and what that is on the 26th. We actually have discharge upgrades. It no longer has the expungements portion, just discharge upgrades. And that will actually be with our partners over at Swords to Plowshares on the 27th, followed by a CalVet home loans webinar as well. If you wanted to utilize the QR code that's there viewed for you, you can actually go directly to our Eventbrite and register for any one of those upcoming webinars. We have our survey, and we would greatly appreciate you to take some time as we do value your feedback, and we'll utilize any of the comments captured in there to further our opportunities to improve our outreach and improve any of the suggestions that you may offer there. Again, we like to thank everyone for coming and attending today. Katie, thank you. Ben, Sean, and all those attending, greatly appreciate it. Please do stay in touch with us as we have our phone number there listed, our website, and also our email. Our social medias are listed there, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.